Let's watch a couple clips of another CNN panel, as I always think these make a good way for us to speak about what's going on in the political atmosphere, especially during this transition period, with Trump's picks, what's going on in the White House, and all of this different chaos to kind of sum it up. So I've lined up the best moments for us that I think make for conversation. And as always, we'll be back with context, starting with the possibility of Pete Hegseth being dumped by Trump as possible misconduct allegations have risen, including from his own mother.
If you're going to dump him, don't dump him and wait. Like, go ahead and have your plan B ready to go that instant. Don't fire somebody without your backup right away.
And I mean, Trump has backups. I mean, he always has somebody.
But you got to get him to say yes. I mean, he could be mulling this, but I don't know if Ron DeSantis wants to be Secretary of Defense,
And, for other folks who might have been Senate watchers all along, there were enough Republican senators from day one saying, well, this is our process and let's let the process play out. And he will have a chance to answer questions in front of us. What they were leaving out of that was, I'm looking forward to supporting the president's nominee. There's at least 4 or 5 Republican senators, which is far more than they can afford to lose right now, who've expressed a little bit of skepticism about him. And it just doesn't look like he's just got the support he needs.
But I think that's great, because I think it's really important that people remember that the Senate is a co-equal branch of the government. Their job is to watch and see and confirm the nominees. They're not just there to rubber stamp it. Their job is to actually look into it, which is why we need the FBI background checks, why we need the hearings.
Article 1 of the Constitution, boom, right there.
And it's funny, they're exactly right at the end there, and it's supposed to be conservatives who want to, conserve the Constitution and constitutional values, yet MAGA wants to throw aside any of the constitutional values that don't benefit them, namely the checks and balances we are supposed to see in our government, where the right is furious and threatening to primary any senator who doesn't just write off yes on any of Trump's picks, which, as they pointed out, it's not at all what senators are there for. It's not to just stamp off on give the stamp of approval to anyone the president wants. This is how we get fascism and authoritarianism in America. Like, this is what it looks like, guys. Like, MAGA isn't scared. They're seeing it right here. And yet they're the ones who pretend to be so scared of the establishment. Like, they're there to analyze the background checks, the merits and qualifications, and confirm or deny off of that. Not just because of partisan lines choose to go along with something, but the right wants the government to do whatever it is Trump wants and says, and for him to have this top-down control, which is scary and completely unprecedented. I think on either side, we should be happy that we have a Senate that might deny someone who is accused of sexual assault, domestic abuse, being drunk on the job. His own mom said he abuses women, of whom has dangerous views about Muslims and women, like serving in the military and stuff. Like, we should be glad that we still have some safeguards in our government that might somewhat prevent people like this from being in power, at least at the bureaucratic level, that is. But because he votes red, MAGA thinks, it's so terrible that this is happening to him. I just remember how hard they prosecuted Ketanji Brown Jackson, a black woman who was perfectly, if not easily, more than qualified. But now Trump's pick should be scrutiny free. Like, we shouldn't be looking into him at all, and they should all just go along with it. Like, the double standard here, they're not even trying to hide it anymore.
That's what amounts to a job.
It's a little out of the ordinary, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, it was out of the ordinary for the newspaper to print private correspondence between a mother and a son, but
you don't think it was relevant, though, Scott?
I mean, I thought it was pretty outrageous that they printed. But yeah, I mean, look, relevance is a different question, but
I think it was pretty outrageous when we put Hunter Biden's junk on congressional billboards. That was also outrageous, and yet that is sort of the world
I think there's a lot of outrageous stuff, but I think it matters whose it is. I think that it's outrageous if it's Hegseth stuff, but it's not outrageous if it's Hunter Biden's. It's not outrageous if it's Hillary Clinton's. It's not outrageous if it's theirs, but it's outrageous if it's
a letter between.
Yes, and I love that we're even seeing it in mainstream media, that we're done conceding these insane things to MAGA. They have no problem when it's a private citizen not running for office or anything like that, when it's their literal you-know-what area that we're showing, or sensitive emails being put in congressional hearings or in clips online, because it's a Democrat, it's Joe Biden's son, that's fine, or leaking their personal texts and emails, or other sensitive Biden conversations with family members that he might have loaned money to, or a laptop full of personal details of Hunter. All of this is fine and needs to be public information. But how dare the vetting process for one of the highest appointments in a presidential cabinet happen to find that one of the pick's own mom said that he abused women after he has allegations against him of doing so, on top of all the other baggage we mentioned. This is it's kind of weird, right? This insane comic book villain vindictiveness that the Republicans have when they're going after the other side, that is matched with this flip side of like a horrendous victim mentality anytime they're the target. It has to be one of the more annoying parts of our current political discourse.
If he is, in fact, an abuser of women, don't you think that that's a relevant thing, even for an FBI background check? Couldn't he be blackmailable? Couldn't he?
Oh, sure.
I mean, we know he's paid a settlement to one woman.
Yeah.
So that is, I mean, that's not just like nice to know.
But it's not even just blackmailable. He's going to be in charge of well over 200,000 women, right? And he has been told, he has been allegedly had improper conduct with many women.
Yeah.
So if you are a woman in the military, first of all, you've been told you shouldn't be in combat. Then if somebody you're already having trouble with a superior officer and you've been sexually assaulted and you know the person at the very top of that food chain has done it himself or allegedly done it himself and then has no interest in helping you out, that actually is relevant. It's relevant.
And this brings me to my final point, but a pretty important one nonetheless, and a large one that needs to be made. Notice how when it's a black nominee, a black appointment, a black hire, the right is so hyper-focused on qualifications. It's all about vetting. We have to make sure they're qualified and they have to be vetted to the fullest degree to ensure this. But when it's a straight white male that Trump appoints, the notion is he should be accepted without any vetting, no matter what is found, just because Trump says so. There's no worry of him being qualified. It doesn't matter that he has no qualifications in terms of this job. It doesn't matter that he's not qualified in the terms of he could be blackmailable and has been in the past in terms of like signing agreements to send money to quiet people over, or, you know, whether or not he'll be able to be around and command women after being where he would be in control of over 200,000 women, and especially in a position of authority that's in question. There is and never will be any questioning from MAGA on any of these things because he votes red, because he supports Trump, and because he's a straight white man. These are the kind of false standards that MAGA tries to build up that we as the left need to spend the next 2 years calling out, destroying, and no longer accepting or allowing to exist as the framing of our arguments when we enter into these debates, because it inherently puts us on the defense in a position that MAGA won't even hold when we turn the tables around and it's time to hold it for themselves. They don't care about standards or qualifications. If they did, then the Hegseth pick would make them angry. RFK Jr. would make them angry. Charles Cushing would make them angry. These are all people who have no qualifications in the positions that they're being appointed to, some to unprecedented levels in terms of like RFK Jr.'s case. And I mean, you can go down the list and name the majority of Trump's picks at this point, like Fox News hosts and all these different people, like other family members that all just don't have the qualifications, but they don't care. Because to them, one, the unconscious bias in the first place with them being, you know, white males makes them believe inherently they've got to be qualified, right? And then secondly, because if they support Trump, that's enough for MAGA. Qualifications, experience, all of that aside, it's just have undying loyalty for Trump and they'll never question anything else.